Hey all, your OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Outin Nano. This is a portable electric espresso coffee machine that is catering towards outdoor enthusiasts. You can take it anywhere you go, so even in the wilderness or if you're going RVing, you can still enjoy a freshly brewed cup of coffee. It's about the size of a water bottle, has a pretty attractive design. The color, by the way, can also be customized. We have the green version, also comes in white, in addition to even a red version that looks quite striking. In fact, it has won a Red Dot Design Award, and some of the features include fast self-heating, so it will boil the water, reaching hot enough temperatures to brew the coffee successfully. Claims to be very simple to operate, just tap on the button once and then the coffee brewing will be in action. And like thermally insulated water bottles, the inside is crafted out of stainless steel, whereas the outside is a plastic shell, so it's not going to feel hot when you are picking it up. Weighing in at 670 grams, so relatively lightweight. Here's a dissection chart that shows the various components inside of the mini coffee machine, and it comes with different adapter kits that you can use for various types of coffee. For instance, you can use a pod from Nespresso, or you can use ground coffee, pouring it into the basket yourself, and it does come with an included cap that doubles as a mini cup for drinking the coffee. So again, if you are a coffee lover and you want to enjoy it anywhere you go as you're traveling, this might be an interesting gadget. Otherwise, it simply charges using a standard USB Type-C, and when fully recharged, it can make up to 5 cups of coffee, and you can just pour in cold water, it will heat it up, thanks to the built-in 7,500 milliamp hour capacity battery inside. And if you are using hot water already, it can then work up to 200 plus cups before you have to recharge it again, taking just around 200 seconds to go from cold water into a freshly brewed cup of coffee. And by the way, the pressure inside is 20 bars, pretty good for a small coffee machine like this to ensure that the coffee is getting infused with the water the best that it can. So the packaging here is done in a pretty tasteful way. We have also some instructions on the flap that tells us if you're trying to make Americano versus latte versus espresso versus mocha, how much additional milk or water we can pour in. Top here says have a Outin day, some of the top line features that we just covered earlier. Now, one thing I will say is that this doesn't really come with a companion app, not that it really needs one, but I just wanted to point it out since I see a QR code here. It's just for the instructions, because there are some smart water bottles that we've reviewed in the past which can bind to a smartphone, allowing you to track how much water you're drinking as well as the temperature inside. But again, this thing is just one press and then the coffee just comes out from the bottom. However, perhaps in a more deluxe version in the future, they could possibly consider adding features like changing the pressure as well as maybe even the water temperature to brew different types of coffee, which at that point would require you to change some of the settings using something like an app. But again, this version currently is just simple tap and go. A more detailed user guide is even found here if you want to flip through more of the technical specs. Then we have just the Nano coffee machine itself. We have the green version we'll take a closer look at in a moment. Other accessories include the aforementioned cap, which doubles as a coffee cup. There's also a standard USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable, and you'll also find some of the adapters. For instance, you can pop in pre-made Nespresso coffee capsules, or you can choose to dump in coffee grounds or powder yourself. Closer look at the coffee machine. There's another piece of instruction kind of printed on it. So a lot of this info is repeated just as precaution. It tells you again the ideal amount of water you should pour inside, as well as the amount of coffee ground. For instance, around 50 to 60 milliliters of water and 5 to 6 grams of coffee is ideal. And if there's no water remaining in the tank, it will also have a safety off function, prevent any overheating or dry boiling. The front here just features a power key. You can tap on it once just to check on the battery percentage out of 4 LEDs, so each one represents about 25%. Feeling pretty good from a build perspective. It's slightly coarse, easy enough to pick up, and here's also what it looks like with the cap attached. Again, the size isn't too different compared to most conventional water bottles. Here's one that we checked out recently, which has an average 530 milliliter capacity, just to serve as reference. So this thing is going to slide pretty easily into cup holders, into the sleeve of a backpack, really without too many problems, like a normal water bottle, which is impressive. Otherwise, we can clean as well as attach in various components just by unscrewing the bottom section. This one here is for inserting pre-made pods versus this other one that you can screw off the top to then pop in the ground coffee itself. And then as the water drips down, it will of course brew into coffee coming out at the bottom. So it's pretty easy to operate as well as to clean, and then the water will be inserted at the very top compartment. Again, crafted out of stainless steel. It tells you with a marking how much water you should insert. Again, depending on the concentration of coffee that you're trying to make, the water will reach boiling temperatures and then get filtered down below there, dripping past into the section with coffee and then come out from the bottom. You can also go through a clean cycle just by popping in water without any coffee if you just want the entire thing to kind of rinse itself, reaching boiling temperatures, or if you want to only drink a bit of hot water, you can do that as well. It can technically be a portable water heater if you don't want to drink coffee, or if you want to brew a bit of tea, for example, you can then just maybe pour a tea bag in here instead. So those are some alternative use cases, even though it's primarily designed first and foremost for coffee. Now on the back here, by the way, there's also a flap covering up the aforementioned Type-C port for charging to prevent any water from leaking in. And in this example, we've gone through a cycle without putting any coffee inside, so it's just hot water that has run through. And indeed, if you just want to kind of heat up room temperature water, or maybe even water from a pond or a river, this will get it into that boiling temperature, as you can tell. Could be nice on a cold winter's day. Now, by the way, we can also go through a clean water rinse, aka the self-cleaning part. It won't really be heating the water up necessarily, but it will just be passing it through all of the components, which is actually recommended that you go through a clean cycle every time that you finish drinking coffee to keep the machine fresh and ready for the next time. We should also remove the coffee container section and then just double click on the power feed for it to then rinse through down below here. So that is a clean cycle that has been completed. Now moving into our first demo, popping in a bit of coffee. I'm going to now close up this compartment, attaching it onto the coffee maker, again making sure that it's a tight seal. I've already gone ahead and popped in some cold water onto the top, by the way. And then to start the session, we have to just tap on the button for 2 seconds until we hear a beep for cold water, or you can hold for 5 seconds if you have already hot water poured onto the top to save the heating step. But in our case, we're going to have to activate the cold water mode. So it will take around 2 minutes or so for the water to first reach boiling temperature. And then the final minute and a half will be going through the coffee section down below, adding the pressure. So in total, it's going to take around 3.5 minutes from cold water into a fresh cup of coffee. The last step though, adding the pressure, will be a little bit louder. Also, the LEDs will be continuously flashing to show you a progress bar or indication of how far along it is in its cycle. And indeed, afterwards it is ready to be consumed. And also the 20 bar pressure added at the very end means that the aroma of the coffee grounds get diffused into the hot water a little bit more to let that flavor really dissipate, and you do end up with a fairly tasty drink, again, if you are a coffee lover. In fact, I would dare say it tastes as good as on a larger at-home coffee machine, which is impressive for something that is so small at the end of the day. And there's nothing stopping you from experimenting with other types of coffee type beverages. For instance, you want to add a bit of ice, if you have that, to make it into iced coffee instead. So compared to most of the other handheld coffee machines that I've seen in the past, this one primarily stands out for having that built-in self-cleaning / heating component up top versus requiring you to use hot water already, making it just a little bit more convenient and intuitive, comparable to just a regular water bottle in size. And here's another example where I've popped in a little bit of milk frothed up for just some added texture and creaminess, also tasting quite delicious. So you can experiment with all of your favorite coffee drinks that way. Plus, again, if you use just the hot water, rinsing it down, you can of course also try maybe adding some other solutions, including tea, hot chocolate, in addition to maybe even milk tea that is in powdered form and will dissolve in hot water, just as some other examples. But again, it's mainly designed for coffee, but you can always experiment a little bit. So there we have it. That's been a closer look at the Outin Nano portable coffee machine. A pretty neat gadget for those that are commonly on the road, or if you are maybe living out of an RV, for instance, you're tight on space and you want something a little bit more compact, but still produces good enough coffee pretty much anywhere you go, then this might be worth considering. You can also use it again to just heat up some water or enjoy some other hot beverages, including tea, that you want to experiment with. Very easy to use and pretty elegant elegant in its presentation. The maybe only downsides would be, again, the amount of coffee it produces, 1 cup at a time, is going to be a little bit more limited. So if you have to make larger quantities, maybe sharing with a group of friends and family, well, that's kind of a compromise of getting a more compact design like this. Nonetheless, again, it is a very neat portable coffee machine. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Outin Nano.